going to call our City Council meeting of February 27th, 2020 to order. I ask that you please rise for the invocation by Councilman Michael Brown, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let's pray. God, it's another day you've given us, and I think we all can say is thank you. Thank you for all you have done for us in our lives, not only in the past, but in the present, but also in the future. God, continue to be there for this city, this state, and also for the United States, for all we're going to do. Help us to be knowledgeable of our meeting we have to do. Give us wisdom. In your name we pray. Amen.
May be seated. We're going to ask Council Lady Jameson to go down for proclamation.
Mr. Donald Holmes, will you please join me at the podium? Whereas 93 years ago, Dr. Carter G. Woodson and the Association for Studies of African American Life and History began the celebration of Negro History Week, and the impact and significance of the celebration expanded. And this year we mark 44 years of Black History Month. Whereas during the month of February, people across this country gathered together to celebrate Black history. And whereas Black history reminds us of the struggles and the personal sacrifices of African Americans and honor their outstanding contributions and achievement, especially in the achievement of civil rights, military service to our country, and equality. Whereas Liberty Hill, Vietnam Fighting Men, as written by Dr. Henry E. Darby, tells of the courageous sacrifices of those who served in Vietnam from the small community of Liberty Hill in the city of North Charleston, South Carolina. Whereas our city, our state, and our nation will never forget that from a small community of nearly 700 residents, there were 64 young men who served in Vietnam. Whereas 8 of these young men gave the ultimate sacrifice of their lives for our freedom and the service of our country. These young African American males range from age 14 to age 41. Whereas Private First Class Harold Mack Jr., Private First Class Billy Williams, Staff Sergeant Ernest Lee Carter, Private First Class Nathan White, Lance Corporal Isaac Sparkman, Private First Class Franklin Rambert, Lance Corporal Wellington Blanding, and Sergeant First Class John Henry Holmes. Gone from our sights, but will never be forgotten. And whereas we pay homage to some of the young men that return to the small village or a small community in the city of North Charleston to tell of the carnage of the war, we recognize PFC Benjamin Grant, Lance Corporal Odell Lamont Price, Staff Sergeant Julian Van Hannigan, and the son of John Henry Holmes, Earl Donald Holmes. Whereas in the words of Dr. Martin Luther King, the ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in the moment of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at the time of challenges and controversy. By year's end, U.S. troop levels reached 495,000, with more than 30,000 American deaths in Vietnam. In 1968, over 1,000 men per month were killed. Now, therefore, be it resolved, reading for the mayor, I, R. Keith Summy, Mayor of the City of North Charleston, do hereby proclaim the month of February as Black History Month in the City of North Charleston and urge all citizens to participate wholeheartedly in its observance. Again, this is at the seal of R. Keith Summy on the date 27 February 2020. And I am so honored, Mr. Holmes, to present this certificate of our proclamation to you and your family, and we will never forget. Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Holmes.
Is there anyone here for women in construction? Will you meet Ms. Jameson at the pulpit?
Again, the City of North Charleston is so honored to present the Palmetto Chapter of Women in Construction, a proclamation recognizing the work and dedication of your organization.
A proclamation. Whereas the Palmetto Chapter has distinguished itself for 2 years as the voice of women in construction in the Berkeley, Dorchester, and Charleston counties. And whereas the work done by the Palmetto Chapter has benefited the region through community development and educational programs. And whereas the Palmetto Chapter has unceasingly promoted the employment and advancement of women in construction construction industry, And whereas the construction community represented by the Palmetto Chapter has been a driving force in fostering community development through renovation and beautification projects, promotion of skilled trades careers, and a positive vision of the future. And whereas the Palmetto Chapter has sought to achieve successful results for the region and surrounding areas in a cooperative spirit with the other organizations. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, R. Keith Summy, Mayor of the City of North Charleston, do hereby recognize the Palmetto Chapter and its many dedicated volunteers for its steadfast work on behalf and support of the women in construction, and do proudly proclaim the week of March 1st through the 7th, 2020 as Women in Construction Week, and recognize our citizens to congratulate the organization on its many accomplishments. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set the hand and caused the seal of the City of North Charleston and the counties of Berkeley, Charleston, and Dorchester, and the state of South Carolina to be affixed hereto this 27th day of February 2020. R. Keith Summy, Mayor of the City of North Charleston.
And thank you very much for all that you do to support our communities. Continue to good work. Thank you so much.
Mr. Brinson.
Madam Mayor Pro Tem, this will continue a series of recognitions that we started at our last meeting. It has to do with our anticipation of our 50th anniversary. And last year, we started thinking about all of the citizens who have served our city over this 48-year, 9-month period. It's hundreds. And they have served without any sort of compensation. And the more that we reviewed this without much recognition. So what we did was we started to isolate on those who have served at least 10 years on our two most active boards, the Planning Commission and the Board of Zoning Appeals. You will recall that we recognized the three veterans and I guess one incumbent of the Board of Zoning Appeals at the last meeting. And tonight, I think we have three members of the Planning Commission roster who have served 10 years or more. So what we're going to do is Ryan's going to read the original proclamation, and then we're going to ask the three who are with us tonight to come down and get their checks in the form of recognition. Ryan?
A proclamation honoring long-serving members of boards, commissions, committees, task force, and members who have served over a decade on the Board of Zoning Appeals and the Planning Commission. Whereas since its incorporation in 1972, the City of North Charleston has relied upon hundreds of residents serving voluntarily as members of boards, commissions, committees, task forces. And whereas this unselfish and unpaid service has benefited residents, businesses, and neighborhoods as North Charleston has become South Carolina's third largest municipality. And whereas this volunteerism provided valuable advice, regulation, and guidance as North Charleston has developed with growth and revitalization, becoming a diverse and vibrant residential and economic center that reflect the city's values of livability. And whereas the mayor and members of city council now express their gratitude and that of every citizen and every business to those individuals who have served voluntarily since 1972. And whereas the mayor and members of council during council meetings in February 2020 will specifically recognize those who have served a decade or longer on the Board of Zoning Appeals and the Planning Commission, specifically including the following: Anna Montgomery of Boza, Al Harrison of Boza, Dan Sverchek of Boza, Thomas Brinson of the Planning Commission, Mark Curse of the Planning Commission, Sue Thigpen, Planning Commission, Frank Young, Planning Commission, Benjamin Washington, Planning Commission, and Joe McIntyre, Planning Commission. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, R.K. Summy, Mayor of the City of North Charleston, do hereby proclaim the period between February 13th, 2020 and March 12th, 2020 as Volunteer Appreciation Month, a period of acknowledgement of and heartfelt gratitude to each and every citizen who has served our city since 1972, and with assurance to each volunteer that their contributions are valued in the processes that every day render North Charleston an even better place to live, work, and play. Signed, R.K. Summy, Mayor of the City of North Charleston.
Please come. Mark. Thanks for coming down. Myrtle Beach. Mr. Princeton. See you, sir. Thanks. Turn around. We've got TV cameras. You'll be able to see this on YouTube instantly, right, Brian?
And
Instantly,
Facebook.
sooner. Thank you. And thank you so much for your service.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're right.
Thank you, Councilwoman Jamison and Councilman Brinson. Continue with the printed agenda, please.
Approval of the minutes of February 13th, 2020 City Council meeting.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Brown, second by Ms. Jamison. Clerk, please, any discussion or corrections? Please call the roll.
Ms. Jamison?
Aye.
Mr. Brinson? Mr. Hart?
Aye.
Mr. King? Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Jerome?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Second item is an ordinance and final reading. An ordinance subdivision text amendment. An ordinance amending section 18-40G of the North Charleston Code of Ordinances, subdivision regulations regarding city-owned properties.
I have a motion.
Move for approval.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Ms. Jamison?
Aye.
Mr. Brinson. Mr. Hart.
Aye.
Mr. King. Mr. Brown.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Jerome.
Aye.
The motion carries unanimously. The third item, an ordinance and final reading. An ordinance rezoning the property addressed as 1816 Orvid Street, Charleston County, TMS number 469120020 from R1 Single Family Residential to B1 Limited Business, and concurrently amending the comprehensive plan's future land use map for that same parcel, changing from single family traditional to neighborhood commercial in Council District 10.
Move for approval.
Second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Ms. Jamison.
Aye.
Mr. Brinson. Mr. Hart.
Aye.
Mr. King. Mr. Brown.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Jerome.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Ordinance and final reading. An ordinance rezoning the property addressed as 4145 and 4151 Barnwell Avenue, Charleston County, TMS numbers 47011000105, and a portion of 47011000078 from R3 Mobile Home Residential to M1 Light Industrial and B2 General Business, respectively, and a concurrent amendment of the comprehensive plan's future land use map designations for those same parcels, changing multifamily residential to light industrial and major business retail in Council District 7.
Move approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Call the roll.
Ms. Jamison.
Aye.
Mr. Brinson. Mr. Hart.
Aye.
Mr. King. Mr. Brown.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Jerome.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Ordinance rezoning the property addressed as 3042 North Carolina Avenue, Charleston County, TMS number 46916000329 from R2 multifamily residential to B2 general business, and concurrently amending the comprehensive plan's future land use map for the same parcel, changing from multifamily residential to major business retail in Council District 10.
Move for denial. Second.
I have a motion and a second for denial. Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Ms. Jamison.
Aye.
Mr. Brinson. Mr. Hart.
Aye.
Mr. King. Mr. Brown.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Jerome.
Aye.
The motion is denied. An ordinance rezoning the property addressed as 2010 Hackman Avenue, Charleston County, TMS number 46608000305 from R1 Single Family Residential to ON Neighborhood Office, and concurrently amending the comprehensive plan's future land use map for that same parcel, changing single family traditional to office professional in Council District 10.
Move for approval. Second.
I have a motion for approval and a second. Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Ms. Jamison.
Aye.
Mr. Brinson. Mr. Hart.
Aye.
Mr. King. Mr. Brown.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Jerome.
Aye.
The motion carries. An ordinance and final reading, an ordinance amending section 4-10A, off-street parking required for multifamily dwellings of the City of North Charleston's Code of Ordinances, Appendix A of zoning regulations.
I have a motion.
Move for approval.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Ms. Jamison.
Aye.
Mr. Brinson. Mr. Hart.
Aye.
Mr. King. Mr. Brown.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Jerome.
Aye.
Motion carries. An ordinance proposed zoning text amendment, an ordinance amending sections 3-2, 5-8D1, 5-9D1, and 5-10C4 of the North Charleston Code of Ordinances zoning regulations regarding height definitions.
Move for approval. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Ms. Jamison?
Aye.
Mr. Brinson? Mr. Hart?
Aye.
Mr. King? Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Jerome.
Aye.
Motion carries.
We need items 9 through 17 by title only, please.
All right. Without objection, we'll do 9 through 17.
First reading.
Mr. Dirk?
He said yes. I checked.
Item 9, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to execute an indenture quitclaim deed and any and all documents necessary and appropriate to transfer a portion of St. John's Avenue to South Carolina Department of Commerce, Division of Public Rails. An ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to execute a license with CenturyLink Communications to extend fiber optic cable to the Old City Hall. An ordinance authorizing the mayor to execute any and all documents necessary and appropriate to convey a pump station at Westcott Plantation to Dorchester County. An ordinance adopting a bill to be entitled an annexation ordinance of the city of North Charleston, annexing an area known as 53-U in Charleston and Dorchester counties, Charleston County TMS 38900000137 and TMS numbers 38900000154. Dorchester County TMS 15400000062. 3 parcels located off Hoot Owl Avenue in Council District 4. A resolution authorizing the mayor to execute any and all documents necessary and appropriate to allow South Carolina Department of Commerce, Division of Public Rails to have early access to St. John's Avenue to perform construction/site work. A resolution certifying property located at 5841 Rivers Avenue, TMS number 472-0400-192, North Charleston in Charleston County, South Carolina as abandoned building sites pursuant to the South Carolina Abandoned Building Revitalization Act. How far am I? A resolution accepting new public drainage easements on property adjacent to Morris Baker Boulevard, Council District 6. A resolution portions of Indy Drive, Finn Boulevard, Audrey Alley, and Scout Alley into the city system for maintenance, Council District 7. And that should... One more? Through 17. A resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into agreements covering area lighting with Dominion Energy South Carolina Incorporated for McCune Plantation North, Phase 13, Council District 9, and Mixon Village, Phase 6, Council District 7.
Do I have a motion?
Move for approval.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on any of the items? Call the roll, please.
Ms. Jamison?
Aye.
Mr. Brinson? Mr. Hart?
Aye.
Mr. King? Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Jerome?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem,
Yes.
can we do items 18 through 22 title only?
Without objection, item 18 through 22, title only.
A proposal award for the Fire Museum fire engine door recladding to the most responsible proposer, High Cotton Construction, in the amount of $98,625. Request to approve change order 1 for additional services to riverfront park restoration. Request to approve transfer of miscellaneous deadline equipment. Approve change order number 2 for additional work to complete the construction of the intermodal facility to CSX in the amount of $137,443. And request for approval of the 6th annual Bruceller event.
I have a motion.
Move for approval. Second.
Mr. Hart or Mr. King was the second? You,
Yes.
Mr. Hart. Okay. Any discussion on any of the items? Call the roll, please.
Ms. Jamison?
Aye.
Mr. Brinson? Mr. King? Mr. Hart. Mr. Hart. Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Jerome?
Aye.
Motion's carried unanimously. The final item is the appointment of municipal clerk.
And I will call on Councilwoman Jamison for a report from the committee.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. On 2/26, the committee met, and after much discussion, we agreed that we would accept the appointment of Ms. Sandy Brown as municipal clerk of the city of North Charleston.
Do I have a motion?
Second. Motion. Move to approve.
I got you, Sam. Have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, discussion is that,
Need to turn your mic on, Mr.
We have not,
Turn your mic on, we can't hear you.
therefore, I will not vote against it because it has not been, this has not been handled as it should be. We haven't decided on any salaries. We haven't decided on anything, so I don't intend to vote for nothing. I don't know what we're doing.
Well, I will tell you that the salary was, and the job description was decided on in the committee that was appointed by the mayor.
Salary's already been approved, but there was no approval from the council on it.
The
No
approval-
evaluation, no evaluations have been made or anything.
But the committee was appointed by Mayor Summey. The committee met, it was their decision, which Ms. Jamison just reported to you, so that's what we're voting on.
No, we haven't discussed it. We discussed it in an executive session before. We never made any decisions on it. We needed to come back and discuss it again. We never did that. So I vote no on it.
Call the roll, mister. Yes, please.
Ms. Jamison?
Aye.
Mr. Brinson? Mr. Hart?
Aye.
Mr. King?
No,
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Jerome?
Aye.
The motion carries.
Anything else to come before council? Oh, yes, we do have four speakers.
I think we're going to go back on that on the motion because I think even where there's only 5 of us here tonight, so it didn't pass. Is that right?
That's right. Did not pass.
don't have a quorum.
We have a quorum.
Everything we did tonight.
Mr. Dirk?
Hold tight 1 second. We're waiting on,
Actually, pursuant to 230% to Section 239A, all actions of council shall be by majority vote of members present at a public meeting. Therefore, the fact that we have a quorum here being a majority of the members of council, we are entitled to conduct business, and a majority of those here tonight to conduct business may act as the body. So if you have a 5-to-1, it will have passed.
thank you. So it has passed. Okay, so we have 4 to speak. What? Okay. I'll ask that you please come forward as I call your name. You have 3 minutes in which to speak. Give your name and address for the record. Neil Bailey. Is Mr. Bailey here? Kay Hahn.
Kay Hahn. I live at 5129 Celtic Drive here in North Charleston. Good evening, council. Thank you for your service to our community. I'm not sure about this microphone. Is it broadcasting me? Okay, very good. I know you're all committed to making North Charleston a great city, and so am I. And so I continue to wonder why our leaders are determined that an independent audit of the police department, which could put to rest so much criticism of police-community relationships and could help immensely with management of the city, should not be conducted. It's not the cost. Average costs of these audits are well within responsible spending boundaries, and it's certainly not that our city has no problems with trust and transparency regarding police-community relations, Councilman Brinson's recent op-ed in the Post-Courier notwithstanding, because racial disparities in stops still exist. I understand that one of our own councilmen was stopped on a very thin pretext very recently for driving while African American. The city of Charleston has now completed an audit. Chief Reynolds has said again and again that what they learned about police methods and strategies is invaluable. The audit in Charleston finally came about because the African American members of City Council, after long months of discussion and keeping the peace with their mayor and their Caucasian counterparts, spoke up at a council meeting and told their own stories of racial injustice. They and their friends and their families being racially profiled over years in their own city. All of them had been sitting on their stories, but on that evening downtown, a dam broke. I was there, I saw it. After hearing these heartfelt narratives, the other members could no longer defend the status quo. At that time, the mayor and the whole council made a decision to proceed to hire an independent auditing firm. We need not fear the outcome of an audit. We have a mayor and a council and a police department as good or better than any other city. Do we have problems? Yes. Do other cities also have these problems? Yes, of course. But the difference between North Charleston and other cities is that we want to be among the most progressive cities in our state and in our country. And we can do that. Let's put the insinuations and the irrational defenses behind us now. It's long past time. Let the sun shine in and acknowledge our shortcomings and our strengths, because we have both. Thank you.
Next, we have Mavis Huger. Again, please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Mavis Huger. I live at 8621 Refuge Point Circle. I am Councilman Kenny Skipper is my council member. I'm here also to speak in favor of an independent audit for racial bias in the police department. We ask for that because we've heard hundreds of stories of disparate treatment at our House meetings. And further beyond our House meetings, we dug into the data, and we found that it supported the stories that we heard. We found that the stops were 2-to-1 on these pretext stops. And even though the overall numbers of stops have come down, the disparity remains still at about that rate of 2-to-1. We know that North Charleston has a long history with the police department and the community in issues of mistrust. Some of the more recent incidents would be, of course, the Walter Scott shooting, which we're coming up on the 5th anniversary of that. There was also the Thug Life website that the North Charleston Police Department dealt with, and the flashlight swastika incident. So these incidents continue to happen. The city of North Charleston did, in fact, undergo an audit in 2016, a DOJ audit, which we know the results of that were never released. So the North Charleston Police Department, having been through this process, again, has nothing to fear from going through it and making sure the results are made public. The issues that would be raised by an audit are ones that are systemic. We're not talking about any one specific officer, any one specific incident, and systemic issues of racial bias are historical ones. They predate the current leadership, and it's certainly not about trying to place blame on anyone specifically. It's about addressing systemic issues, and they cannot be addressed by one person alone. They need a systemic approach in order to deal with systemic issues. There was a recent Legal Defense Fund report that was issued showing that in addition to the stops, North Charleston Police Department has an issue in how it handles complaints, that how complaints are handled are also treated disparately by race. An audit would uncover more of these types of issues and would give you the data that would help you as a council be efficient in your oversight generally of the department. We think that it is time. There is, in fact, nothing to fear from doing it. We would encourage you to undertake the audit, which was also the recommendation of the Citizens Review Board as well. And we ask that you would take that into consideration and that you would support the audit. One last thing that I had to say, sorry, is I recently became a mother. My child is 16 weeks old, and I look at what he will grow up to be, and I hope he'll grow up to be something great. spectacular, maybe a doctor, an engineer, or a lawyer like
Your
myself
time-
and my
your
husband.
time's up, ma'am.
I don't want him to grow up to be a suspect. Thank you.
Next, we have Jerrod Frazier. Is Mr. Frazier here? Anything else come before this council? All right, meeting adjourned. Good luck.